Hey everybody, Chris here from Skeleton. It's been a little while since we've recorded one of these videos showing kind of progress on the project, so I just wanted to take a few minutes of your time to kind of cover what we've done over the last few weeks. There's been a couple notable kind of updates during that time, the big one being that we released the Skeleton V3 beta, which you may have seen in various posts and announcements, social services, and that kind of thing. But today I'm actually kind of excited to update that and kind of put out there that we are now launching our release candidate. The release candidate being kind of the last stage of the development process before we go to the full release. And so, what does that mean? What does a release candidate mean for us? So essentially, it means that the library itself is feature complete. It has all the features we intend to ship at full, at the full release, and that it is mostly stable. There's still probably a few odds and ends to kind of finagle in there, but for the most part, it's ready to go. The things that are not done are going to be things like between now and release. The things that we've got to kind of tackle are going to be like the documentation, kind of refining that, updating the website, making it look really nice, making sure all of the information is very thorough. There's been some questions and things that have come up during the beta phase that we just want to make sure we address in there and just help everybody find what they're looking for. So, so today's a big milestone in that process towards release, and then we are looking towards a full release sometime around January. So just about a month from now. That means that we do have quite a lot to do between that time, and that date may change just a little bit, but as it stands, we're pretty confident we're going to be able to hit that. But before we go too far into the future, let's talk about what we have today. And so, if you have not seen what we've been putting out lately, let's just kind of quickly run through and just kind of talk through what's been updated and changed. And so, what you're seeing on the screen here is a post that's going to go out alongside this video, and we'll just kind of cover a little bit of everything you need to know of. Okay, what is the release candidate? How do I get to the documentation if I've never seen that? How do I install it? How do I kind of migrate if I'm on a V2 prior version of Skeleton or something like that? All those details are kind of covered front and center right at the top here. We're also covering some details that are like specific to today's release, so I'm going to skim past those just for a moment. We'll come right back. And let's just kind of talk through just briefly some of the high-level stuff that's happened in Skeleton V3. So this is the kind of culmination of what we've been working on for the last year. And so you're going to see a rundown here of I'm not going to cover every feature here just for the sake of time, but kind of a very high-level outline of what has changed and why it's changed in some cases. Which just talks about the new modular structure. We now have the core package, which is framework agnostic for any of the Tailwind specific features. And then any of the components and things like that are their own kind of dedicated packages that you can optionally install. And then if you have, you need a little bit more, you need, popovers or code blocks or something like that. We have integration guides that'll kind of cover those extra kind of details. You're also going to see that we are kind of announcing the Figma UI kit, which is coming alongside launch. We're very excited about that. It is very comprehensive, very, very high quality. Micah and Bodan, who are the designers and community members that built that, have done just an amazing job with that. So we're very, very excited to kind of get that in your hands very, very soon. It's not quite ready to share yet, but again, alongside launch, you're going to have all kinds of options, including that. We kind of covered a lot of how we're kind of structuring things in the documentation and kind of talked through the new details, things like variants becoming presets and what we kind of include in that sort of design system is what we're calling the new version of the library. So if you want to see the kind of details of those are outlined here. We cover some of the new details about the new themes, the fact there's something like 20 plus new themes just kind of built in, the new theme generator, which is very comprehensive with lots of really cool options to tweak and change and really kind of customize the look and feel of your theme. And then of course we've just done some like major overhauls to the documentation itself. So if you're looking to get started with the project, or you're just looking to kind of reference something, we've tried to kind of cover both those scenarios in a really nice fashion, including like better search and things like that. So lots and lots of information to dig into on that. If you haven't seen it, currently it lives on the next.skeleton.dev domain, but that will go to the skeleton.dev domain when we launch. So if you're kind of curious why there's sort of two websites, this is just for preview sake right now. If we want to kind of backtrack to today, the release candidate, there are a few things that are coming specifically as part of today's release that I wanted to kind of cover a little more in detail. The first is just that this release does revolve around stability. We are trying to get the library as stable as possible so that you're not running into bug issues or feature missing or something like that. It's going to be about as to the best of that quality that we can get kind of leading into the launch. You'll notice this is the changelog for just this release, and it's just tons of bug fixes, chore issues for like minor improvements and just all kinds of stuff kind of tucked in there. Definitely recommend you click and kind of browse through those things because there's some cool stuff in there. Additionally, we are launching an update to our onboarding, which provides now support. We previously had onboarding for Next.js and SvelteKit. We've now expanded that to Vite for React and Vite for Svelte, which is just sort of a more minimal way you can kind of install and use those component libraries. We also have instructions for Astra, which is a little bit more involved. If you want to take a look here, we can kind of look at the install instructions. We go to the Astra one. You're going to see it's going to have a little bit more to it. It's going to be a little more comprehensive because it's kind of two parts. The first part is just installing the core package, which is very easy to get started. It just uses Tailwind. There's not really a lot of heavy lifting to kind of get off the ground and running with that. But if you do want to use components, Astra is kind of interesting and unique that it does support multiple front-end frameworks. That means you can use the React components, you can use the Svelte components, you can use both if you really want. It's not a reason to use both, but you could if you really wanted to. But there are some gotchas with using components in Astro, and so we just kind of outline that, show you how to install the components, and show you kind of a use case for how you might kind of work around some of those restrictions. So just a heads up there that there's just a couple additional details with the Astra version. And then finally, we do provide sort of a generic guide, which is just for installing the skeleton core. When I say core, that just means the Tailwind plugin primarily, which means you have access to our full design system and any kind of Tailwind-based features. Just everything except components. This does mean that, again, kind of fulfilling that original promise with Skeleton v3, that it is now framework agnostic. That means that you can now use those core features in, whether you're in Next for Vue or Solid Start for Solid or Laravel or you name it, any other framework that does support and doesn't allow you to install Tailwind. Tailwind is kind of the most critical detail there. So if you can install Tailwind, you can likely use the core. And this is just a generic guide to kind of help you walk through that process. We can't tailor it for every single framework that exists out there, but we want to show you the major points, like, hey, make sure you do this, and this should work for you. So really exciting stuff. Lots of new options. We're excited for folks to, a larger audience to come in and start using Skeleton with that. Additionally, we've made some major updates to the documentation itself. So there is a number of new integration guides. So these are features that were previously, a lot of these were previously things that were built into Skeleton. We've just decided these are not things that fit within kind of our ideology of what Skeleton should be or what we should be building around. We're more focusing around moving the focus to design system, primitive features, simple components, that kind of thing. And so what we've done is we've created these integration guides to just give you a little bit of a head start for integrating these third-party open source libraries that not only work probably better, they have more features and that kind of thing, but they're just more expansive. You can do a lot more with them, right? So Perfect example of that is the code block integration. If we click that, you're going to see it's going to show you how to integrate a tool called Shiki, I believe is how that's pronounced. And it is just an extremely powerful tool for any kind of like code syntax highlighting, things like that, code blocks, if you will. And so it's actually used, I believe, uses or shares some commonality with VS Code. So if you have used VS Code and you really like how syntax highlighting works in this is kind of a derivative or sort of associated with that in some fashion. So very high quality. It's actually the solution we use for our documentation. So any code blocks that you see through the entire application, through the documentation, those are provided through Shiki. So if you want something, of that quality in your own application, we've provided a full guide to show you how to do that with React and also for Svelte. And we will carry that forward with other frameworks that we add in the future. Same goes for things like iconography, using a tool called Lucide, which is really great. We've got popovers. Popovers are going to be a little bit kind of in a weird situation right now because we're waiting on some additional libraries and technologies to kind of come forward for the Svelte side of things. So you'll see a disclaimer. Feel free to read that and reach out if you have questions on that. For React, this is just going to be a direct integration with Floating UI, which is a extremely powerful tool for creating popover interfaces. It's essentially sort of the de facto solution in the web world these days. Up until the point that some of these new native APIs that are kind of on the horizon kind of ship in all browsers. And so that'll be things like the Popover API and the CSS anchoring API specifically. We're very excited to start taking advantage of those. They're just not widely available in all browsers yet, as is sometimes the case. And so we're going to use this as our stand-in solution for that. Additionally, we have Toast, similar to Popovers. We kind of use a slightly different approach for React versus Svelte. In React, we're using a tool called React Hot Toast, which is a really great feature, like lots of cool stuff. My camera might be covering it, but little popovers in the corner. And then for Svelte, we're providing kind of an in-house solution for now using components that we're providing. We might kind of go a little further with that. We're just kind of waiting to see what the options are in the Svelte ecosystem are. Currently, Svelte 5 has just released, and so a lot of the tooling that exists is kind of in a similar state that we are, that they're updating to Svelte 5. And so not everything is quite there yet, and so for now, we're just kind of helping bridge that gap. You'll also see another section here for data tables. That's not integrated yet, but know that that's coming. We have made some progress on that. We're looking to use a tool called TanStack, which is probably familiar to anybody in the React world, but they have a TanStack table, which is a data table solution that is framework agnostic. It works for Svelte, it works for Vue, and others as well. And so we are looking to create a guide around that. It's just a little bit more involved, and we just may not be able to get that right in time for the release, but just know that that is coming. Let me look at the list, make sure I didn't miss anything else. Okay, Cookbook is another big update here. So if you look at the Cookbook section, Cookbook is what we're considering a set of recipes. Recipes are just small tutorials, if you will, or kind of guides for creating like interfaces that kind of complement the existing library. So utilizing features that Skeleton provides, that Tailwind provides, maybe integrating a little bit of JavaScript or logic in there, and then you get something as a result, something greater, right? And so you may see some features that are familiar from V2 that have made the jump and been translated to a Cookbook section instead of a standalone feature. We might make components out of some of these again. It depends on if there's some interest in that, things like alerts, that kind of thing. But for the most part, we think most of these should be kind of open-ended. You should be able to customize them fully, even more so than you can do with a component. And so we've created these guides to just kind of help you get started. And so this covers everything from things like using the clipboard API to kind of replace the copy to clipboard feature, the action we had in V2, to creating a stepper component, to on and on and on. Lots of really cool stuff here. It's definitely worth exploring if you have a chance, just to see kind of what's new there. And then the other kind of like really kind of cool change is that if you look at any of our components, you'll see an API reference here. You can click that, And this is just going to be kind of a generated table that kind of details all of the properties and things like that that you have access to for that component. So if you want to add a padding property to be able to set the padding styles for the accordion or for whatever component you're working on, it details, what's the name of the property, what type does it accept, and a brief description of, what it is. There's some of these fields that are required, and they'll be indicated. There's some that have more complex data, and so we'll kind of show an object, or a little popover to kind of just help fit all of that on the page there. But it is a great source of reference for any of that information. So you have your component, you're ready to put it on the page, you want to know what options are available. Here's a great reference to come and look at that. And kind of a quick aside about this, we're generating this automatically against our source code using a new in-house framework agnostic tool called Necroparser. Naming's hard. It's the best we could come up with, sorry. But it is a really cool tool built by Hugo, which is one of our long-term contributors. And he has done just a fantastic job on delivering this. And we are so happy with it and confident that it's going to be something that we continue to use, regularly. But we also are talking about open sourcing this. So at some point in the future, probably post-release for V3, let's get past all of that, we would like to revisit and bring that out and kind of put that out in the community. So if you're a library maintainer and you have components and you need to document that, this is a way that you can kind of automate some of that process. And it's, again, really great because it goes and reads the type data directly from source and, some really cool stuff you can do with that. So, again, kind of maybe look for some additional announcements around that in the future. Okay, and I think that wraps everything for the release candidate today. And so, again, just wanted to kind of, outline this is what we've been working on. This is what's new today. And then maybe just kind of a little peek of what's coming in the future, right? So as we are leading into the full release, you can see that I've pulled up on GitHub. This is just kind of our backlog of things that remain for the V3 launch. And so you're going to see there's not many. I think it's, 22 or something issues here. This doesn't represent the scope or scale of some of these issues, so don't let that fool you. We still do have a good bit of work left, but the majority of the issues kind of on this top half are related to documentation. And as I stated earlier, the big push between now and the full release is just fleshing out our documentation, making it look nice, making it presentable, making sure all the information is thorough, making sure that there's no broken links or, you can find what you need and that kind of thing. So some big improvements coming to the documentation leading up to the full release. Additionally, this kind of bottom half is tickets that we have for, small bugs, feature requests, things that we would like to get in place before the release. And so we are quickly working on these. We're closing, a number every day just to kind of get these things up and out the door. But just know that's the kind of thing that's between now and the full release. The other thing to kind of keep in mind is that as of next week, because the time I'm recording this is the holiday break for many folks, Christmas, New Year's, that kind of thing. And so both myself and the team are going to be taking kind of a well-deserved break and, spending time with our friends and family during that time, which means that we're not going to be working on Skeleton. We're not going to be doing, major updates or things like that. So you'll see a little bit of a pause and updates and things just for the next couple weeks. And then once we get to the first of the year, we're going to resume and try to get these things kind of knocked out. And that will lead to what is our final release date. So again, we're aiming for that sometime in January. So we will be working diligently to achieve that and get everything, knocked out here so that we can deliver that to you. By the time that we will try to tease as much as we can ahead of time with that as well, just so that you have, a little bit of a heads up of when that might drop. As soon as we know, you'll know, that kind of thing. Other than that, I think that's all I've got for you today. I do hope that you check out the release candidate. Please do, test it. Similar to the beta, test it, try it out, see what works and doesn't work for you. If there's something that's not clear in the documentation, et cetera, that's the kind of feedback we're still very much looking forward to. Like if you can submit that, either on Discord or on GitHub, that will help us kind of, help polish off those rough edges so that, Skeleton works well for everybody. So the more you can do with that, it's very appreciated. Other than that, I hope everybody has a really nice holiday, and we will see you sometime next year. Enjoy. Thanks, everybody.